Uh, this is a very interesting discussion you are leading to. Asking me to tell me about, asking me to tell about my life in general. And see, when we started our career, we really did not think long term. We went on choosing between the options we had, and we had several options. For example, when I chose science because I thought I was good at mathematics, and at that point of time, you had to either get into engineering or medical, unlike today where you could really be successful irrespective of what you do. And I was lucky that I was good with mathematics, and I shouldn't complain. I did enjoy my science too, and I did work. It did work out very well for me that I was good at chemistry. So, amongst other things, I chose chemical engineering, thinking there would be a lot of chemistry. There would be a lot of chemistry in it. And to my surprise, chemical engineering is not just about chemistry. There is a lot more physics there than a chemistry, so to say. Physics and mathematics. It's a very versatile branch of engineering. All material processing is handled by chemical engineers. So I stuck on to chemical engineering. I did my master's in chemical engineering, did my PhD also in an area which was close to chemical engineering, biohydrometallurgy, and then got into teaching because somewhere along the line, I found that I had this ability to interact with students. I had this ability to uh, speak for an hour continuously. I mean, at that point of time, that's what teaching meant. And I mean, even now, I mean, you need to have that ability to speak for longer periods of time. During my early days, I remember I used to take lectures which were 2 hour long at times, and I have even engaged lectures 3 hours with a break in between, and so on and so forth. That apart, teaching has been, I have found satisfaction in the teaching profession, because when you see uh, a light building up during a class in the eyes of, may not be all 60 students, but a few of them for sure, that what you are telling makes sense to them and they really think they can use it. I think that satisfaction is instantaneous, and it's in some sense very deeply satisfying. And when you see some of these students, do well in life, you at least are sure that you didn't harm them too much. And when I look back, I think all teaching, all higher education is all about not to harm the student's own ability too much. Over the years, although I have changed my understanding of teaching, I started off as a sage on stage. I thought I knew everything, and then when I went for my masters, I realized I surely don't know everything, and neither does anybody in the world who knows everything. And we are all ignoramuses, and whatever little we know, we probably know a little bit more than somebody else, and it's our duty to pass on, bring everybody else to at least that level, if not encourage them to go higher. So my first teaching stint was in BITS Pilani, where I was trained into teaching. I had good mentors like Dr. C.S. Rao, and I had first-hand experience as to how they prepared their lectures. The notes were prepared, and what was written in the notes and what was being said in the class. This is a correlation you develop. And so I unlike school education, where everybody goes through a B.Ed training on teaching technology, higher education, it's non-existent. The pedagogical training is something you develop either during your studies by looking at some good teachers if you are lucky, and you then manage the you learn the tricks of the trade, so to say. And I have always prided myself in my ability to lecture, only to realize how ineffective it has been over the years. There have been semesters where I have engaged more than 100 sessions for the same set of students. Uh, and while some students enjoyed those sessions, they were sincere. They had no other plan in their head that all that studies they could do themselves. Uh, Over the years, I have come to realize two things: that this education is a non-convergent equation, because it's being handled by teachers who were trained yesterday, using material which was available day before yesterday, in that sense. And we are trying to train the youth today for their tomorrow. So this timeline can never converge, because tomorrow is going to be so much different from day before yesterday and yesterday. And it's impossible to predict what is required tomorrow. We can only make a guess. So the best bet is give them the non-negotiables, no time invariant knowledge, the basics, and give them a learning ability. Help them build that learning ability, and teach them that it's a lifelong learning process, which means you not only have to learn, but you have to also learn how to unlearn quickly, because the technology has changed, or what you had learned is no longer relevant, and it needs to be done faster and quicker and smarter, all in one. And while you pride your ability to do it differently, uh, the world has moved on, and world wants everything faster. So you really need to learn how to unlearn and relearn newer things. So that's the ability which student has to pick up. For that, the pedagogy has to be different from what we practiced for, what I practiced for last 20-25 years at least. And this has been a journey of realization of how not to do things. So now I push all my younger colleagues not to do it that the way we did it. While we did it and we survived because our students were smarter, they somehow managed to learn, they somehow managed to understand the challenges, and they are able to cope up with those. I was just the other day talking to an ex student of mine, uh, who was in my class about 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago. And he was talking about things which were non existent at that time. So that's really satisfying that he really, did learn, and what we studied together helped him learn the newer things that came along. I think that's really satisfying. So that's been my journey in a nutshell. If you My teaching journey in a nutshell. That's my philosophical journey, and I have stayed in teaching. Although leadership came my way, in some sense was thrust on me. When I became a professor, I was asked to become a head of the department, and I was told, either you become a head of the department or you suffer somebody else, and I chose not to suffer somebody else. I'm sure I'm. This is There is a time to apologize everybody who did suffer me. But that's part of the game, and it's a learning curve for everybody. And I have really enjoyed my leadership because I found very good mentors who could help me build that leadership. Uh, Unlike what people believe, nobody is born with leadership qualities. You learn and observe, and you imbibe those qualities to be a leader. If you are not a leader, then you are just a manager. I think what is important in academics is try to be a leader, because academics is a pretty flat structure. Whether you are a vice chancellor, a pro vice chancellor, or a dean, or a registrar, or an assistant professor, essentially you are all teachers, and you need to recognize the fact that all of you are teachers, and work accordingly. Some of you are first amongst equals, kind of a thing, or senior amongst equals, but that's just incidental. It does not change any other parameters. So I have had opportunities of becoming, after head of the department, vice principal, principal. Then I became a dean, then campus director, finally vice chancellor, and so on and so forth. So this has been my journey in a, nutshell, and I today profess focus on outcome-based education. I urge my colleagues to practice outcome-based education rather than content-based education. Move from content-based to outcome-based. In content-based, you are stuck on completing the syllabus irrespective of whether students are learning it or not. In outcome, you will work hard on achieving the outcomes as to the ability the student needs to acquire at the end of course or a program, and that I think is a dramatic change. The new education policy proposes that, not that it was not there, but these are the things, some of which were part of our ancient Indian techniques. The pedagogy was meant to teach a student what he likes, what his aptitude is for, at a pace which he likes. Not every student graduated at the same time, not every student learned the same subjects, not every student uh, you know did the same thing, while all students were treated equal in the so-called Gurukul environment, and everybody was forced to do everything, every work that was allocated in the Gurukul, and you earn that proficiency. I think we are slowly moving towards that, and this has been very satisfying.